This is Morning Express on this 28th day of September 2015. It's time for us to look at the way it is. Remember, you're welcome to participate in this conversation. The Twitter handle is at Michael G. Gitonga. Let me straight away introduce the panel that we have this morning. And to my immediate left, we have Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
Next to him, we have Onyango Olo, who is a TNA Secretary General.
Thank you, Mike.
We have Member of Parliament, nominated Member of Parliament, Zuleika Hassan.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Omar Hassan, who is the Mombasa County Senator and also WIPA Secretary General. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, it's been quite an eventful weekend and a lot has been happening. And of course, Kenya standing proud by clinching the marathon, which I'm sure all of us are in agreement. That is a good thing. But something that we might not be in total agreement is probably the AMPAS. We're on week 5 of the teachers' AMPAS and hoping this week is going to be the one that will break the deadlock. And so far, we have the court ruling and suspending the teachers' strike and saying they should go back to teach for the next at least 90 days. If by then it's not settled out, we can look at it from there. I'll start with you, Senator Hassan Omar. Are the teachers being unreasonable to have conditions after the court has given that ruling?
I'm waiting for their decision because I am meant to believe they're going back to court today to try and persuade the court to vacate that position. I think there's a general mood in this country that we must find resolution to this matter. I think, as you said, week 5, combined with the holiday, the students are in almost indefinite, protracted holiday. Exams are supposed to be starting. And I think the country is in the facing imminent crisis. But I think I personally believe part of the assertions by the courts were fairly reasonable. I think that the court acted in the best interest of the students or our children. He tried to not to mitigate by asking that an arbiter be appointed. And within 90 days, a solution be sought and concluded. So I'm hoping that whichever way the court rules, I hope that we'll be able to find resolution, as you said, probably this week.
Okay. And Ambrose Weda,
yes.
I know you've been very consistent on saying the teachers should go back to school and the government does not have the money to pay. Okay, with this now ruling, do you think they're being unreasonable, giving a condition that they'll only go back if TSC withdraws the initial court proceeding that they had put?
I think they are not being unreasonable. They are being tactless. What they lack is tact. And that is why they are losing ground every other minute. The country doesn't have money to pay them. That you don't need to go to any economics class. The money is not there. But the teachers have one advantage, that they have a court decision that says increase the salary. If they were tactful, they would not have gone on strike. They would have continued working. As they say, please tell us when you are paying, how you are going to pay it. If you are paying later than this period, are you going to pay in arrears? Are you going to pay our salaries with interest?
But these are promises they have received from time immemorial and never
now
seem to
they
be
have a
fulfilled.
court order, which as long as it exists, it is binding. But then they became tactless by saying, oh, we are not going to work. So even now, they have not earned the new salary. They have not worked for it. It is when they teach that they earn even the new salary. Now they are not working. They are not earning it. And again, now there's a court order. If they continue in their tactlessness and they do not go back to work, then they are giving the adversary chance actually to sack them and hire other younger people who are willing to take less, and they are many and they are ready. And I am saying their strike and these high salaries are negatively affecting education sector in this country and is affecting the children of Kenya. Okay. It will make it impossible to hire teachers with the new salaries. So we can pay the existing ones, but we will not hire new ones. And that affects the children of the poor people, because I know Senator Omar's children. Actually, a child will be in academy. So they'll continue. So let us look at it as a country. Are we able to afford? If we can't afford it today, how much can we afford today? How much can we afford next year? And how much can we afford until it is fully paid?
Zuleika Hassan, have the children been left out in this conversation, yet it is them who suffer?
Of course, they've been left out. as I think is usual when you're talking about issues that affect children. But a lot of the time also you have people who speak on their behalf, and rightfully so, example, parents and so on. But this is definitely something that I want to put to the executive, the fault of this. The issue of the Labour Court deciding, that maybe an arbiter should come in place and decide. I think the executive should have taken that role when the Supreme Court ruled that they should be paid, instead of saying that they can't pay and they won't pay. It would have been better to say, okay, so this is what the court has decided. We're following the rule of law. So let's sit together and find a way in which we can do this in an amicable way, and in a way that's realistic as well. That would have been better. But now, because of the reaction of the executive, now the rift is even wider. And for me, the executive stands for everybody in the country and should be like a parent figure, rather than someone who's just out to just punish or dictate what should happen without listening to the other side, especially with teachers who've been waiting for such a long time for these increments. It's been, court order and strike after strike. So this was a nice opportunity for this to be solved. For the
executive to take over. Yeah. All right, Onyango Law, some of the critics have come out to say the reason why this has gone on for so long is a clear sign of weak leadership. At some point, the president or the executive needed to come in, step in and take charge and have this resolved. What are your comments on that?
Thank you so much, Mike. First, I think that is being said because we have been able to bundle untruths to the public. And so people would probably think that the executive has not been working. One of the things that I would like to clarify first and foremost is that the Supreme Court never said that pay the teachers. The Supreme Court simply pronounced that it lacked jurisdiction in this matter. So go back to the Court of Appeal. Now, secondly, immediately this matter started, the executive came out clearly with one clear message. We are unable to pay you the amount so far awarded by the court. And it gave its reasons from the initial stages. One of the reasons being that it is not just as 17 billion as easily computed by those who want the money paid. There are issues like pension to be factored in, but more importantly is the spiraling effect in the other public sectors that would make the whole amount boil towards a whooping 118 billion, and you now have to pay it annually. So the executive has been very clear. It has made its pronouncement that it does not have, the country cannot, with its current economic status, afford to pay teachers that 50–60% increment. But it has always been willing to talk and listen to the teachers. So the executive cannot be blamed. What we should take and accept is that there has been some obstinacy on the part of the teachers. The court has given us pay. The court has given us pay. And especially when they went to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court declined the issue of, on the basis of jurisdiction, they came back to the public to start telling them, even the Supreme Court has said pay us, to make the government simply look bad. We still reiterate, we are willing to pay, but the current economic status cannot afford that increment, bearing in mind the spiraling effect into the other public sectors.
Okay, let's talk solutions.
Let's get this clear. A ruling was made by the Industrial Court.
Yes.
We went to the Court of Appeal. They upheld that ruling. Then the TSC went to the Supreme Court. It did pronounce itself that it has no jurisdiction, meaning that is the decision of the court. So whether the Supreme Court did not necessarily affirm itself on the payment or otherwise, when no court vacates an order, it means the order of the court is that is in existence at that point in time. So there's a court order that has not been vacated by any particular by any particular superior court. Therefore, just because a criminal is on a process of appeal, for instance, does not make him innocent. So I think that therefore, on that pronouncement, I think the teachers were justified. There has been a procrastination of the promise to the teachers. And every other time, and including, I mean, being very sincere, the moral question Ababu did indicate in his motion it's not its likelihood of success. It's the fact that we are able to increase public sector salaries across the board. You know, and yet whenever it comes to teachers, we take that promise and procrastinate it. So the teachers were justified in saying that this was like a final digging. It is there for them to defend that territory because at last they have a validation of the court. And once you're given validation, you can now take actions that are reasonable. Okay,
let me come to you, Onyango Oloo, as a lawyer, and this is now down to interpretation. Is that accurate interpretation of the law?
That is not accurate. In fact, just to take him back, when we came from the industrial court, this matter went to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal did not uphold it. The Court of Appeal refused to give a stay, saying this matter has to be heard inter partes and be determined on its own merits. In the meanwhile, now the government went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court also declined that it did not have jurisdiction, meaning within the legal parameters that the matter is still pending in the Court of Appeal to be heard on its merits. It may be upheld, it may be dismissed. So it is this banding of incorrect information to the public that has made the government look like the Supreme Court has validated, the Court of Appeal has validated, pay. We are saying the industrial court gave a judgment. We went to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal said we are not giving you interim orders.
So that is why I'm saying
allow him to finish.
No, that's the judgment in force. It's as simple as that.
Allow him to finish.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you this first. You can't tell Onyango Oloo in your moderation that you are a lawyer. Is that the correct opinion? We are also lawyers. We have people out there.
I just asked if it's correct interpretation. I'll give you a chance
to
also
give.
You gave your interpretation. You gave your interpretation.
You know, even in your moderation, you must be balanced, my brother.
Hassan Omar,
I'm just telling you that
you gave your interpretation.
You can't call another panelist and ask whether it's correct.
No, but
for his opinion.
Absolutely. On the authority of a lawyer. You're both lawyers.
Yes, okay, he's an independent lawyer.
Can I say something?
Maybe let him ask.
All right, let's hear
there are also armchair NGO lawyers. There are also court lawyers like me and him. And him is NGO court. Now, the correct position is this. The court awarded the teachers 60%. And the hard part of it, that will make it even difficult to succeed in the appeal, the 60% that the court gave, it is the TSC that offered. So we can't give them 300%, we can give them 60%. You get it? Now, if you are looking at it technically, even TSC is in a difficult position. So they went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal said, oh, but this one is your offer, give them. But money does not grow from court orders. Money in an economy grows from taxes. And that is what the country cannot afford. That is. Then, it cannot afford it as a lump sum. But factored in over a period of, let's say, 3-4 years, it can come in. This thing started when Kalonzo Musyoka was Minister for Education. He also faced a similar strike on the same amount of money. And he said the same things, that we can't afford it, the economy can't afford it. And he refused, and he was very arrogant at that time. Now he's posturing in Uhuru Park saying, oh, you need to pay. That is the tragedy of it. So I say, teachers should look back and say, look, already we have a court order. You can't go back, wait for the court order. Meanwhile, tell us how you are going to pay. As you pay, they work and earn it. So it is settled they have a court order.
Okay. Let me respond to this issue of calling people NGO.
Can we give these two lawyers?
These two lawyers, you know, have you ever had these two lawyers handling any major case? No, they're just, you know, Jubilee activists.
Let's talk issues rather than personalities.
Okay,
can we just leave it at issues rather than
NGO lawyers?
And I'll also request Ambrose Weda let's not attack personalities. Let's just talk about the issues.
Okay, for me,
Zuleika, let's hear from Zuleika.
Yeah. For me, people who support the Jubilee government always like referring back to the court leaders when they were in leadership and so on. Obviously, the context at that time were different and so on. And that doesn't mean that just because maybe somebody made a certain decision, why don't you become better? Why don't you, if you think their decision wasn't so, you know, so good, why don't you make a better decision? And maybe let's not even make this sometimes about law and about legalities and what the court said. How about just just being just good-spirited, thinking about children, missing education, about the government sitting and really looking at our budget. Because that happens. It happens in our lives normally every day, where you go to your budget and say, okay, there's an important thing I need to pay for. What do I need to cut? And it's possible for us. It's possible, yeah.
Are you suggesting the government to amend the budget without using the legal procedure?
No, they can use the legal procedure. I mean, even for the Mumias bailout, they did bring the issue back to Parliament. So they can do that. If they could do that in a very short time, they can do that for this. You know, there's a lot of money in several places within the, you know, the security sector. There's a lot of money that's sitting there in case we go to war and so on. You can take some of that and help pay some of the money. So for me, it's just, can we have some goodwill? Can the government come and say, okay, you know, let's stop this whole court process. Let's come, you know, and sit together and start seeing how we can do this. Call economists, if they don't want to call court, to come in and sit to help them find out how the money can. I'm sure there's money that can be found.
Let's talk solutions. And one of the solutions that the public was expecting was out of the rally that was had last week in Uhuru Park. And many came out to say that some were disappointed. They didn't feel like there was direction. And the Deputy President even took a swipe at that yesterday. And I'd like us to have that on Director, where the Deputy President had something to say regarding some of the solutions that were given by the opposition. Let's just have that now.
Hiyo harambee nasikia, nilikuwa nauliza Kidero hapa kama amesikia mahali hiyo harambee imefika. Ati sasa wako na shilingi 1,120. Na ile pesa inatafutwa ni bilioni 118. Surely. Maajabu ya Musa hii.
Code haikuwa ina pretend kwamba tunaweza kuchanga pesa za kulipa walimu. La. That was not even the intention. Mwenye kulipa walimu ni serikali ya Kenya through the Teachers Service Commission.
Senator Hassan Omar, talking solutions, and of course the Deputy President taking a swipe at the solidarity account. And did you feel like you gave the teachers hope in regards to solutions from the opposition?
What do you understand by the word solidarity? Solidarity means we're going to support you in the quest to have a better pay. Whereas the solution here is very definite, is that if court gave a rundown through the statement that was read by the Prime Minister at the very end of it, former Prime Minister, about the capacity of the government to have the capacity, for that matter, to pay teachers. We are saying in the alternative, if court was in government, court would have paid the teachers. That is the simple dynamics. You see, when you have, when you have a litany of people who are advising you, who are all rejects from political establishment, you have Kutuni, you have Maboza, you have Abdikadir, you have the types of here we have. So therefore, you don't see solutions because your mind is closed. But what we are saying, court was saying, if we were in government, we would have sought that money, found it, and paid. That is the alternative we are giving. The alternative is not for court now to say, listen, we are going to do one or two things. And solidarity means you create a movement, no matter how weak that movement appears at its very conceptualization. People like who've big ideas have started off as a very small spark of issues. So we're saying, let the teachers believe in us in the sense that we are willing to stand by them in whatever manifestation. Because, the intention of the TSA, as Zulekha puts it, was to punish, was to kill the will of the teachers. So we are saying we start this account, for instance, at least to take care of some of the fundamental expenses that might occasion from time to time, that we are a people who are willing to put our mouth where the money is. I mean, our money where our mouth is, whatever it is. So what we are saying is, even that person with 1 shilling, 10 shillings, where it's necessary, it was never, as Kalonzo puts it, and Raila has clarified it. We are not stupid. We know that you cannot raise 17 billion shillings annually from the public.
Okay, Onyango Olo, at least the opposition is showing some solidarity of standing with the teachers, and like they say, if they're in government, they have solutions and ways that they can look for the money.
Solidarity by laughing at teachers, by contributing 100,000 after 3 days from the whole country. That is not solidarity. my brother. You don't walk into my funeral, if I have a funeral, and you give me 5 shillings and you say, I've shown solidarity with you, go and bury the dead, and now this is how I would have handled it if I was the one bereaved. We are saying that CORD simply came out miserable and as opportunists who wanted to latch onto the teachers' grievances and get a political mileage. They wanted to get as much political mileage as they could out of it. Out of it, they made a mess out of it. They made themselves a laughingstock, creating an account, telling the public the co-principals have put 100,000 each, only for us 2 days to be told that the total amount, including that which the public has contributed, is 109,000 Kenya shillings. What kind of immediate expenses can it pay? Not even legal fees. At the end of the day, what you see there is a bankruptcy of ideas on how to run a government, if at all they are a government in waiting. It is quite absurd that a people who pride themselves as a government in waiting, who should take the government reins, should they, one day, maybe 50 years, 100 years, be entrusted with that responsibility, can come with an idea as ridiculous as collecting money from the public through M-Pesa to pay for salaries of teachers running into billions. That is absolutely laughable, and I think they have learned from it.
Zuleyha, you're shaking your head, I can see, but
No.
also as you respond to that, wouldn't it be a weak move from the opposition, given that, first of all, we don't know what the structures of accounting for that money is? Secondly, 2 days after he announced, the CORD leader announced that there is 200,000 at least, then now it comes out that there's 100, which, you know, deals a blow in terms of credibility.
Okay. First of all, in terms of what Olo was saying, we all know that even if you're in solidarity, in Kenya, in normal society, if somebody died, for example, he gave an example, if you just attend a burial, that's, you know, that is appreciated. So to say that if you bring 5 shillings to a burial and that's a joke, I mean, it just shows the kind of, there's no empathy from, you know, the Jubilee leadership.
Attend,
there's
but
no
don't give 5
empathy.
shillings.
And there's no empathy from the Jubilee government. But just saying just basic things that, you know, Kenyans live with every day. So for me, the issue of in terms of also the M-Pesa money, there is we do have structures, and there are signatories who are able to bring that money out, and I need to get the correct, I need something that's very open within the party and within the CORD structures. And also my issue is also, when we're talking about this thing, we're trying to really belittle what CORD is trying to do in terms of trying to be with the teachers. For me, the government shouldn't even allow, for the Deputy President to say what he said. He's really belittling Kenyans, he's belittling the children of Kenya, the teachers of Kenya, because he's making a laughingstock. I mean, if the government did what they were supposed to do, we wouldn't reach this stage where CORD would have to start to be, you know, to be in solidarity. And it's because we don't have access to money in government. But as we've said, the media maybe, and especially the ruling coalition, they looked so much at that issue of the M-Pesa bill instead of listening to what the Prime Minister was saying, that there is money in the government that can be used, that can be channeled towards paying teachers. So they're making this thing very trivial about some money that somebody is trying to raise in solidarity with teachers. And we've said that would help in terms of lawyers' fees. We didn't say we'd pay all the lawyers' fees, but for any Kenyan who wants to feel in solidarity with the teachers. And many Kenyans are also upset about the position of the government, because they're saying we're paying taxes, so why aren't the teachers being paid? Why aren't our children going to school when we're paying taxes so that our children
Although
can go
the
to
issue
school?
with paying teachers is not a solitary amount that is going to the teachers. It's looking at the total wage bill, which is the issue.
But then in terms of the total wage bill also, we have this this setup of civil service that the national government has formed, starting with county commissioners, and they have staff. So we have a duplicate system at the county level. So we have county governments, and we have this duplicate system that's not recognized legally, anywhere. That we're paying. So start removing those things that are not recognized. We don't have issue
What are those that are not recognized?
So what I'm saying is the county commissioners, the county commissioners and all the staff, there's like a duplication of work at the county level. Let's start looking at that in terms of cutting off the wage bill. Also, let's start looking, one of the big problems in this country is corruption. And we know like about 300 billion annually is lost in Kenya through corruption. Let's start being very serious. And the president said right at the beginning when he was coming into power that he'd look at these things. So can we see some seriousness in this? Can we start knowing the figures? How much are we saving from corruption and so on?
Okay.
So that we can be able to manage that. That alone, you know, can pay teachers, the civils, even the 100 and something billion Olo was talking about, and there'll be change left for other things.
All right, Ambrose Weda.
Let me tell you, this thing you look, the court brigade are actually the lords of rallies. When Raila comes from abroad, there's a rally. When there's some sugar issue, rallies all over the country. So there are lots of rallies where they invite Kenyans to come and waste time, and then they dance in front of them. Then the court leader comes from a lineage which has propensity to collecting money from the public. His late father collected money under the Luo thrift. Raila Odinga collected money for the molasses plant. Let me tell you, listen.
Globally, people
listen.
all over about charities, about
Please
different
listen,
issues.
which charities? I'm talking
No,
about...
because also it's bringing tribalism,
no,
Michael.
we
I
have
don't
Zuleha,
think you should
Zuleha,
allow, when you're
let-
talking
let-
about the lineage of somebody,
Please.
this is the kind of division
been
that we don't
quiet.
want in the country. No. When he's talking about lineage, what is about lineage? That's when you're starting to bring tribal issues here. There are children who haven't been in school for 5 weeks now, and then you're starting to talk about a person, an individual. This is not about Raila Odinga. This is not about CORD. This is about millions and millions of Kenyan children already from poor backgrounds the education quality also in this country is not so good
All right.
enough.
Okay,
Can you allow me to
And so on.
finish?
So
Can I
this
now
has
be allowed to
nothing
finish?
do with
All right.
Raila or
Can-
CORD. So I'd like the government to just
I'll
give
give
this,
you-
should get
Zuleha.
children back to school.
Zuleha, I'll
Give
give you an
another chance.
opportunity
Trust
to
me,
challenge
it's
But
whatever
for
he
me,
has
about
to
the
say.
tribal village, I don't think Michael on the national TV, you should allow that.
Who has
Because this
mentioned
is the...
tribes?
Because
Zuleha,
it's talked about lineage.
Lineage
allow
is
me
not
to take this over. If he is going to mention tribe, we shall challenge him.
Please.
I'll give you an equal opportunity to challenge what he has to say. Can we hear him out?
Yeah.
I am saying Raila's late father, a great man, may God rest his soul in eternal peace. He was a great man, but he collected money under Luo thrift from the Luo people, Kenya and Tanzania. Raila Odinga himself collected money from the Luos for buying molasses plant. Now they are collecting money nationally under the guise of paying teachers. It is ridiculous, it is wrong, but it also shows that they don't understand the magnitude of this teacher salary issue. They are laughing at teachers. We are talking about billions of shillings that have to be paid to people until they are 60 years. It is something that requires a national solution. Part of the solution and part of the tragedy is that you see members of parliament who have no idea what a government is, how much is required to pay these teachers. So they come here and they talk, yet the solution is in their hands. One of the solutions required actually is for them to increase the taxes so that more money is raised by government. They increase VAT, and then they also, because they are earning some illegal salaries they were not given by the Saraserem Commission, they let
Who is
that
earning
money
illegal
go.
salaries?
The MPs of Kenya.
I'm not
And they
earning
know
an
it.
Based
illegal
on what?
salary.
Is that factual?
Yes.
Okay, so
What they were offered,
which is how much?
what they were offered was about 400 and something thousand because they removed
And what are you
the
getting
requirement.
now?
Please listen. I don't like her answering ladies, they're gracious. But when you meet some overly aggressive and ladies, then you
Now we're going into an area
let's stick
that-
to the no.
Michael.
Let's stick to the facts.
That-
You
Yes.
said that they
I
are
mean,
they
this
are
is the
earning
type
illegal
of-
salaries.
Yes.
I'd like you to
Really
first of
support.
all justify
now,
that. Zuleha, allow
when
him to
salaries were being rationalized by the SRC, the MPs went ahead and removed the requirement that they must have a university degree for them to be members of parliament. Then Saraserem offered, I think, about 500,000. Okay? That if you are anybody can be whatever, then you'll get this. They then, by threats, said, this is the amount we are going to earn. You don't give it to us, we frustrate the process of government. They then went ahead, allocated themselves these things, and they have been earning it. And I keep on saying, one day Kenyans will sue them for recovery. They know it.
Let me advise Zuleha one thing. When you're here, with weather, you have to be extremely patient. So my brother, I'm so used to the hollow, sometimes.
But some ladies are.
he says these things when you can't substantiate it. I told you he's not a lawyer of note. These are the peripheral actors who are bitter with Raila. Let me tell you, I'm coming to that point. They are bitter with Raila Odinga. These are two rejects who have never been able to find footing in Luo politics. So they come here and castigate Raila. So in such a personal way, to input that his late father brought in, he was collecting money and stuff like that. Don't allow those type of personal attacks, on individuals of that nature. But Raila will not take action on him because he knows he's irrelevant.
The issue here is raising money.
So as I say, we've clarified that. At which point I do not know, they do not understand. When you have a petty group of people that you're dealing with, as Zule has said, rather than look at the bigger picture, they don't understand the value of solidarity. None of them has the soul of the movement in place. These people have no struggle for anything, particularly the constitutional dispensation. This guy belittles the value of 5 shillings. To some people, that 5 shillings is like giving 100. It's about a question of a thought. I remember in the Obama campaign, there's a lady who said, I'm giving you $1 in my prayers. $1 in the American context is like 5 shillings. But she wanted to do something for that campaign in that context to appear to have made her contribution little it might be. So I think what happens is solidarity does not need to be expressed in billions. It can be expressed in your little space in the way that you best know it and in the quantum and the volumes that you have. So I think what happens is when you have a litany, if you have realized it's only the TNA that has been upset about this issue, if you've realized even today the real stakeholders, these two are not stakeholders. These guys are what you call legitimacy. Whenever a politician like me will take my adversary's constituency.
Which point is he trying?
What is he trying to say?
I'm just saying, today, if you saw between yesterday and today, even there has been now a chorus, even from the URP, about some of the issues that were raised by CORD in the rally. So it's not, it's not a
Mike,
question
of
pretensions.
First of all, if you'd allow me, if members
they
of
have gone
parliament are earning a salary that's not legal.
Zuleha,
No,
allow Onyangolo to also have a point and say what he has to say. Go ahead, sir.
Mike, I try to hold on to issues, but it is very unfortunate when a son comes and say, we are lawyers of no note. When he took almost 13 years to finish a bachelor's degree, that tells you who you are dealing with. But what I can tell you,
I was expelled from school. When you have a lunatic.
All right, let's avoid personal attacks. Please, can we just stick to the issue?
What I want to tell you,
let's stick to the issue.
Suspended from school.
Let's
in this issue of teachers,
in
this issue of teachers,
that's why he's waiting to allowances by Uhuru Kenyatta.
There's also the myth that has been rounded about that teachers have not been given salaries, that these promises have been made over the years. I want to put this clear for the umpteenth time, that it is indeed true that in 1997 the government did award between 150 to 200% increment. And that is what teachers and the CORD brigade have been saying has not been awarded over the years. That is not true. In 1997, the lowest paid teacher was earning, that is a P1, was earning 7,762. And the highest, the senior principal, was earning 33,500. To date, the lowest is earning 23,000, and the highest is earning 140,000 shillings. Meaning that percentage that was done during the Adair Dongo Moi negotiations had been concluded. What has happened is that teachers have continuously held the country at hostage. Now and again, we want increment. And they do it at a time when we are having exams, when our children are most vulnerable. This is what we are saying must come to an end. And if you are going to conduct these strikes, please, can't we go through the motions that are set by the law, issue notices, do what is to be done, so that people are prepared? The government is willing to pay what it can afford. The last time, and the president made this clear, teachers and the public servants generally make 1.5% of the population. They earn 52% of the total revenue collected. If we increase this amount, it will reach a level that will be unsustainable, and we are going the Greece way. The country may simply collapse. And that is what the opposition want to drive us to, in the hope that if the country collapses, the people may sympathize with them and give them the reins of power. But the people are a little more intelligent. They see when you are playing politics, when you have ability, when you have demonstrated ability, or as they have totally done, lack of it. No wonder they can't be entrusted with the government.
All right, one of the solutions to show how upset the opposition is, they've come out with, is the fact that they're going to go for an impeachment for the president. And Honorable Wetangula had something to say about that, if we can play that. And also the DP had a rebuttal. And I'll come to you, Zulekha, just to find out, does the opposition have what it takes to actually go ahead with this impeachment? And if we can just have what Wetangula had to say in this regard.
We as a coalition have instructed our team in the National Assembly to immediately start instituting impeachment proceedings against the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Those who are proposing the impeachment of the President, that proposal of impeachment of the President is as ridiculous as the proposal that we are going to sort out the teachers' problem by having a haram.
Okay, so that's what they had to say. And Zulekha, coming to you, and the question here being, is this just political posturing, or is it actually something that is possible for the opposition to do?
Okay, if you'd allow me, I'll answer that question. I wanted to speak about, first of all, what lawyer Ambrose was saying, that MPs are not paid legally. He's a Kenyan also.
But
If our salaries are illegal, he's free to go to court and take us to court for that.
All right, to the
if
question
that's
in regards to the impeachment.
Yes, in regards to the impeachment, whether we will succeed or not, that's not the point. When you go to Parliament and you raise any motion, the idea is for you as a legislator or is to oversight the executive. So as CORD also, that's our role also as opposition, to make sure that to keep the executive also in check. So the president, with just this ruling and the Supreme Court and not following what the courts have said in terms of paying the teacher, the executive in Article 129(2), for example, of the Constitution, it talks about the executive acting in a manner that is good for all Kenyans. And the way in which it acts on this teacher strike issue, just this one issue, is not good for all Kenyans, obviously. For 5 weeks, children haven't been receiving any education. And also in Article 135, it talks about the executive following the rule of law. So in just this one incident, and there are many others, it just shows that the presidency and the president is not willing to follow, the rule of law. I mean, sometimes you don't even have to listen, to some things are so common sense. You don't have to listen to advisors. You don't need, some things are so straightforward, especially if you're going to be impeached alone, especially and if your name is going to be spoiled. That's something to look into. So that's ground enough for us to go in. So when we're going in, we're not looking about whether success or not. We're doing what our part is. And we also want, when history looks back, that we are on the right side of history. And also, this is also an opportunity to show Kenyans, by bringing the motion, that, these are the issues that are going on in the country. This is what's not right, and so on. And we're not politicizing. We don't want to politicize, like what he's saying about rallies. Why are you talking about rallies? We're talking about strike the children who are not going into school. What is that? As if Jubilee doesn't do rallies and so on.
Thank you.
And also, just quickly, if you'd allow me, also Lawyer Olo was talking about the collapse of the economy. Surely the economy of Kenya cannot collapse only because of adding teachers, salaries. That's just not true,
And again,
the government is
it's not just the teachers, but
the public.
It's the public wage bill.
No, but we've said about the public wage bill, some of the things that can be done. We've been saying so many times, some of the things in terms of the current budget, where places where money can be removed and redirected.
Right.
So that's not true.
All right, Ambrose Swede, in regards to the impeachment, the government and Jubilee have come out to say that it's purely a joke, but they're only using a constitutional right that they have, and they want to exercise it. Whether to do it and also to get a message across.
I would tell my Jubilee side to take that motion very seriously and to deal with it decisively. They also know that it will not succeed. This country has not matured to a level where you can remove a president through impeachment motion. The court brigade also knows that. But it is part of the pressure to paint government as having failed. It is for run up to the next elections. And therefore, I would urge the Jubilee team to take it seriously, take the ball into their court, because these people, they are like a drowning side. They get anything, teachers strike, they take this rally, sugar, everything. So to cause confusion and then to disrupt the process in the country, I think they need to take it seriously. Going forward also on teachers' salaries, I think the teachers deserve a better pay. They do. The pay they have is good, but they deserve a better one. Unfortunately, their economy cannot afford it. And we need to take very strong positions as a country. Part of it would be actually to do away with the myriad of many nominated MPs who have no idea how big our economy is.
Okay.
Yes.
Hassan Omar on the impeachment.
I think one of the grounds of impeachment is violation of the Constitution.
Gross misconduct.
Or violation of the Constitution. And I think we believe on several occasions there's reasonable grounds that the violation of the Constitution has actually been meted. And I think our guys are at the final point of drafting the motion. Let me not preempt that debate because I am aware that we are raising several grounds which are actually codified, even some of which, signing into law. What do you call this? Bills into acts outside the Supreme Court's decision, advisory, that certain bills must have the input of the Senate. And there are so many grounds of constitutional violations that we are alluding to that impeachment motion. But one other thing, we are aware we are 134 against 217. We are not stupid. In fact, if you look at the litany of people with greater capacity, in whatever respect, you'll find it on that other side. And we are aware of those 134. So is it about 40? About 40, the Mungaro types are not with us. So we are aware that we are in a position of about 90 members, which has done extremely well in getting these guys reacting to us all the time. Okay, so I think what we are saying, when you call it, when you say rallies, sugar, it means it's check and balances. Okay. There are issues that are coming up every day, and the opposition takes a firm position. Okay. And the avenue of rallies is an avenue provided under Article 37 of the Constitution, which allows citizens to demand for certain accountabilities. When you're not in government, your strategies are extra governmental. Okay. So therefore, it's not like you can always be using the same little platform every day so you need to be creative. So for us, I think the motion will proceed. All right. As we wind up, the message will be made. All right.
As we wind up, Onyango Law, like Omar Hassan says, they know that they may be challenged in terms of numbers, but they have a valid point. According to them, they allege that there's gross misconduct and violation of the Constitution, which are grounds enough to start the motion and to get the point across. Your comments on that? Very briefly, because we need to wind up.
First and foremost, I'm pleased that he acknowledges that they've engaged themselves in an act in futility that will not see the light of the day. They don't have the numbers, they don't have the reasons, they don't have grounds substantive enough to push that motion forward. What I cannot tell you is that they have become masters in exercising rights in the Constitution with no intended objective. An impeachment motion that they originally admit is ending nowhere. Okoa Kenya fundraising, and the other one was called what? They wanted to change the Constitution through Okoa Kenya that they know is ending nowhere. And pass a bill to collect money, they know it's not going anywhere. They couldn't even collect $1 million. That is their speciality, and you allow that, you give them that to them. Welcome with your impeachment motion. We will meet you.
All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have to wind it up right there. Omar Hassan, Senator for Mombasa County, also the Secretary General for Wiper Party, Zulaiha Hassan, who's a nominated member of Parliament. Time is up. Time is up. Time is up. Onyango Law, TNA Secretary General, Omar Hassan, and finally, Ambrose Weda. Ambrose, we'll have to wind it up
Because
there.
he's
Time is up.
nominated MP.
Thank you very much. And that is the way it is. We wind up Morning Express right here, which is about 8 o'clock. Do stand by for the news coming up at exactly 8, and that's on KTN News. For those on KTN Home, oh, I think it's on both, yeah, it's on both actually. Stand by for the headlines coming up at exactly 8 o'clock. That's where we wind up Morning Express. Thank you very much for joining us. Have yourselves a wonderful day. God bless.